I hesitate making this video because I don't want to sound like a whiner, but I think that's part of the problem in medicine, is that we just take it. We're expected to take whatever happens to us. As surgeons, as physicians, you're supposed to suck it up. You're supposed to just tolerate it and move on. I guess I'm going to make this video because I've been frustrated for a while. And this involves the hospital and doing surgeries in the hospital. So I may have been in a hospital performing a surgery recently, and it's a stone surgery, a stone in the ureter, a stone in the kidney. I was scheduled for the surgery, and typically what happens is the surgical tech will open up instruments following the instructions that I've left. And keep in mind, these instructions I have personally edited. These are called preference cards, physician, surgeon preference cards. It's exactly what I want, is exactly what I use, all the little instruments, all the telescopes, etc. And of course, that was not read because as soon as I hit the operating room, the tech asked me, well, what kind of ureteroscope do I want to use? What kind of telescope do I want to use? And I knew it was going to be one of those days. And then, of course, what kind of ureteral sheath do you want? What kind of wire do you want? Is this one okay? When it's clearly detailed, in excruciating detail, outlined in a surgeon's preference sheet, of course, no one reads it. So why do I even bother? And here's the frustrating things right off the bat. I feel like I'm doing the same thing. Like anytime I schedule a surgery at the hospital, this is as if it's the first time ever that I'm doing the case at the hospital. I use the same things. I'm a creature of habit. I literally use the same wire, the same type of access sheet, the same ureteroscope. You do not need to ask me. It's all written down. It's like your kids asking you the same things over and over again. It becomes annoying. It becomes frustrating. But wait, it gets better. So I said, I want the Olympus digital ureteroscope. And of course, the wrong scope was open. So what am I going to do? I'm not going to make them repack it, send it back and repack it, and just to open up another scope. So I said, okay, well, I'll just tolerate the scope. The case starts, and as soon as I connected the ureteroscope, I saw that this light is a little dim, but let's try it anyway. Let's drive the telescope into the kidney. So I was able to get the scope into the ureter, into the kidney. And as soon as I got in there, I realized, gosh, the light, the illumination is just not there. In addition, that flexible fiber optic scope, I think the optics are bad because maybe some fluid egress into the working channel, into the fiber optics, because the image was hazy. So I said, oh, this is not going to work. Why don't we try something different? So we look for the Olympus digital flexible scope that's on my preference card that I wanted from the very beginning, but the wrong scope was open. So I said, fine, I'll just use that scope. That scope is not working. The light cord may be bad. So I asked for the Olympus flexible ureteroscope. Now imagine the frustration, right? It's just little things here and there. Then opened up with the correct scope, asking me the same thing over and over. You see where this is going. This is building up. Look for the flexible digital ureteroscope. And of course, not available because apparently it's broken. Fine, that's fine. That's why there are disposable scopes available at the hospital. So we opened up one of these disposable scopes, connected up to the processor. Well, guess what? The display system doesn't recognize that the processor is there, doesn't see it, if you will. And of course, you try to ask for the video tech to try to figure out how to get that input added to the screen so you can see what is being displayed on the disposable scope. Now that you got it in hand, it's open, it's a cost, it's a sunk cost. And of course, it required asking multiple people to try to come into the room, try to figure out how to set the input. Finally figure out that you have to press and hold the selection button, let the computer figure out where all the inputs are, and then you can pick the input. But when we initially tried that, it didn't work. It did not see that there's a new input, the new processor box attached to the display system. Well, lots of futzing around. Now you can just imagine the patient's asleep on the table. I'm here just waiting, standing there trying to figure out what to do next. Do I cancel the kit? Do I just abort the case by putting up a stent? But that means the patient will have to come back into the operating room. That's additional anesthesia, additional cost, additional time off work. It's just a big waste. So of course I try to do what I can, try to salvage the situation. A lot of attempts. And finally, somebody try to mess with the plug, the HDMI to SDI plug. It goes through the cable to the adapter to the device, to the display system. Somebody messed with that, and then we ran through the input selection process, and voila, it finally showed up. Now, just imagine how long this has taken while the patient's under anesthesia. Okay, you can just feel the frustration, the pain that you feel as a surgeon. And I'm sure the anesthesiologist is frustrated because the case is not progressing. Not to mention the patient is laying there under anesthesia, under prolonged anesthesia that's unnecessary. So finally got the display working. Finally, I was able to see the stone and get the patient treated for his kidney stones and the stone in the ureter. But this is what I'm talking about. It's the moral injury. It's the reason, I think, part of the reason why so many physicians and surgeons are frustrated and burned out. It's these what I call death by 1,000 cuts. It's the asking the same things over and over, not having the instruments available, not opening up the right instruments, having to ask for things every single time you operate at a certain facility. This is the frustration. And I've resigned the fact that I every time I schedule a case there, I already know, I mentally prepare to be frustrated, to be extremely inefficient. Everyone knows that I love efficiency. I hate wasting time because you know why? Time is the only non-renewable resource you have in your life. I may have tens of millions of dollars. There's one thing I cannot buy more of, and that is time. That's why I respect my patient's time. That's why I respect other people's time by not trying to waste it, by trying to bring value every chance I get. If the hospital were smart, because here's the thing, the hospitals need to understand that their customers are not really the patients. Yes, patients are their customers, but who brings the customers to them? It's the surgeons, it's the physicians. It would behoove them to make sure that the surgeons and the physicians are happy. For instance, I detest doing cases at certain facilities because of their inefficiency. It's a systemic inefficiency. And that's why I don't like to go there, because they waste my time. They waste the patient's time. They waste the anesthesiologist's time. Now, those who work by charging by the hour, by the minute, they don't care. They couldn't care less. They're still going to get paid no matter how efficient they run the OR versus how inefficiently they run the OR. There are misaligned incentives, and that's another one of the problems. So anyway, I would love to hear what you have done to overcome some of the inefficiencies in the operating room. If you go to the same place over and over again, if you go to a surgery center that is really empathetic, and there's the key, being empathetic to the surgeon, to your customer. If you have found a surgery center that is empathetic to your efficiency to make sure the patient has the best outcomes, then you've won. You get to walk in there, everything's ready, all the correct instruments are brought out, and you don't have to repeat yourself every single time you perform a surgery there. Let me know what you have done to decrease the frustration, decrease the death by 1,000 cuts, improve efficiency in the operating room. I would love to learn from you. Thank you so much for the privilege of your time. Please take care of yourself and each other. Bye-bye.